Have you ever had a thought that didn't feel like it came from you? Maybe a sudden solution to a problem you hadn't been thinking about, or a flash of inspiration so complete, so perfect, that it felt less like an invention and more like a reception. Like you tuned into a radio station that was broadcasting a song you didn't know you knew. We tend to dismiss these moments. We call them coincidences, lucky guesses, or just the firing of random neurons. But what if they are evidence of something else entirely? What if your brain is not a generator of consciousness, but a receiver? And if it is a receiver, what exactly is the signal? Imagine for a moment that every thought, every emotion, every action that has ever occurred in the history of the universe is not gone. Imagine that time is not a vanishing smoke, but a solid inscription. Imagine a library that has no walls, no books and no librarians, yet holds the detailed record of every soul that has ever existed. The ancients whispered about this place. The mystics spent lifetimes trying to find the key to its door. They called it by many names: the Book of Life, the Hall of Records, the Universal Mind. Today we know it by a Sanskrit name that evokes mystery and vastness, the Akashic Records. But here is the twist, and it is a massive one. Most people picture this as a literal library in the clouds, a place you travel to in a dream to read dusty books about your past lives. That is a comforting fairy tale, but the reality might be far more strange and far more scientifically profound. We are not going to talk about fairy tales today. We are going to hunt for the mechanism of reality itself. We are going to explore the possibility that memory is not stored in your skull at all, but in the fabric of space itself. Welcome to the hunt for the Akashic field. To understand this, we have to go back, way back, before the internet, before the printing press, before the written word. We have to look at the oldest texts of the Indian subcontinent, the Vedas. Thousands of years ago, the rishis, the seers, spoke of 5 elements. You know 4 of them: earth, water, fire, and air. But they insisted on a 5th element, the most subtle and fundamental of all. They called it Akasha. In Sanskrit, Akasha is often translated as sky or space, but a better translation would be ether or primordial substance. The Vedas tell us that Akasha is the womb of reality. It is the subtle background from which everything else emerges. Just as sound requires air to travel, existence requires Akasha to be. But here is the critical part that connects to our mystery. Akasha has a property. Its quality is sound, or vibration, shabda. It records everything. Every vibration that occurs in the universe leaves an indelible imprint on the Akasha. It is the cosmic hard drive. Nothing is ever deleted. The wars of antiquity, the first cry of a newborn, the secret thought you had this morning, it is all etched into this subtle ether. But this idea didn't stay in India. It traveled. It morphed. It found its way into the heart of Western philosophy, disguised under different names. When we look at the Neoplatonists, the philosophers who followed Plato in the early centuries of the Common Era, specifically Plotinus, we find the concept of the anima mundi, the soul of the world. Plotinus argued that the universe is not a dead mechanism. It is a living, breathing creature. It has a soul. And just as your soul holds your memories, the anima mundi holds the memory of the cosmos. It is a shared, living web of intelligence that connects every living thing. When a flower blooms, the anima mundi feels it. When a star dies, the soul of the world remembers it. This changes everything about how we view isolation. If the anima mundi is real, then privacy is the ultimate illusion. We are like islands in the sea, separate on the surface but connected in the deep. This connection was known to the Christian mystics of the Middle Ages, though they approached it with a different reverence. They spoke of scientia infusa, or infused knowledge. This was wisdom that was not learned in schools, not read in books, and not taught by masters. It was knowledge that was poured in directly from the divine source. Think of St. Thomas Aquinas or St. John of the Cross. They described moments where complex theological truths were understood in a flash of blinding clarity. This wasn't analytical deduction. It was a download. They were accessing the database. They attributed it directly to the grace of God, and in the language of their time, that was the only explanation. But if we look at it through the lens of our mystery, they were tapping into that same field of information that the Vedic seers called Akasha. The terminology changes, but the phenomenon remains stubbornly consistent across thousands of years and thousands of miles. The modern revival of this concept, The reason we are even using the word Akashic today is largely due to the theosophical movement of the late 19th century, specifically figures like H.P. Blavatsky and later Rudolf Steiner. Blavatsky was a controversial figure, a true mystery hunter of her time, who synthesized Eastern and Western esotericism. She brought the term Akasha into the English lexicon, describing these records not just as a static history, but as a living field of influence. Rudolf Steiner, the Austrian philosopher and clairvoyant, took this a step further. He claimed to read the Akashic Chronicle directly. For Steiner, this wasn't a metaphor. He wrote detailed accounts of human history, claiming they came not from archaeology, but from direct perception of this etheric record. He described it as a higher form of memory that transcends the physical brain. He suggested that what we call history is just the shadow cast by these events. But the events themselves, the emotions, the intentions, the spiritual reality, are preserved in the Akasha, waiting for someone with the right eye to see them. Now, you might be thinking, this is fascinating mythology, but I live in the real world of atoms and gravity, and this is where the ground shifts beneath our feet. Because the greatest plot twist in this story is that 21st century science is beginning to sound suspiciously like ancient mysticism. The Akasha is getting a rebrand, and this time it has mathematics behind it. Enter Erwin Laszlo and the cutting edge of quantum physics. Laszlo, a philosopher of science and a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize, proposed something he calls the Akashic field theory, or simply the A field. He argues that the quantum vacuum, what physicists used to think was just empty space, is not empty at all. It is a plenum. It is full. It is a superdense field of fluctuating energy and information. Laszlo suggests that this zero-point field records the holographic imprint of everything that happens in space and time. It is the scientific equivalent of the anima mundi. In a holographic universe, which is a leading theory in modern cosmology championed by physicists like David Bohm, every piece of the universe contains the information of the whole. If you cut a holographic film in half, you don't get half the picture. You get the whole picture, just a little fuzzier. This means that the information of the entire cosmos is present at every single point in space. It is present in the tip of your finger. It is present in the space between your eyes. This is the mind-blowing pivot point we need to understand. If the universe is holographic, and if the vacuum of space is a memory field, then the Akashic records are not a place you go to. They are a frequency you tune into. You are already in the library. You have always been in the library. The problem isn't distance, the problem is noise. Our modern minds are like radios stuck between stations, buzzing with the static of anxiety, distraction, and sensory overload. We have lost the ability to tune the dial. But what if we could tune it back? What if the intuition you felt yesterday was a momentary clearing of that static? What if the scientia infusa of the saints and the anima mundi of the philosophers are not supernatural gifts for the chosen few, but biological capabilities dormant in our own DNA? What if the brain is not a producer of thoughts, but a transceiver of the Akashic field? If that is true, then the question changes. We no longer ask, do the records exist? The evidence from the Vedas to quantum mechanics suggests they do. The new question, the dangerous and thrilling question is, how do we log in? How do we filter the signal from the noise? To answer that, we need to leave the history books and enter the laboratory of the human mind. We need to look at the tools of perception that Carl Jung and the depth psychologists uncovered. We need a manual, and that is exactly what we are going to open next. We are going to break down the mechanics of the inner internet. We are going to look at how symbols, dreams, and the strange phenomenon of synchronicity are actually search results from the Akashic database. The theory is done. It is time for the practice. So we have established the premise. We are living inside a holographic field of memory. The Akasha of the ancients and the quantum vacuum of the modern physicists are likely the same thing. The library is real, but standing outside a library knowing it exists is very different from walking through the doors and finding the book you need. This brings us to the most critical part of our hunt, the method of access. How do we turn the human mind from a noise generator into a precision receiver? To navigate this, we must first dismantle a massive misconception that blocks almost everyone who tries this. Most people fail because they are trying to go somewhere. They visualize their soul leaving their body, flying through the stars and landing in a marble temple. While that is a beautiful visualization, it often fails because it is based on the illusion of separation. Remember the holographic principle. The information is not there, it is here. You don't need to build a rocket, you need to build a tuner. Accessing the Akashic records is not about travel, it is about resonance. This brings us to the first law of the manual, the law of frequency matching. Think of your ordinary waking consciousness, the state you are in right now as you listen to this, as a specific radio frequency. Scientists call this the beta state. It is fast, reactive, and analytical. It is excellent for driving a car or doing your taxes, but it is terrible for reading the Akasha. The Akashic field vibrates at a much subtler frequency, one that corresponds more closely to what neuroscientists call the theta state, the borderland between wakefulness and sleep. To access the field, you must mechanically slow down your brainwaves. This isn't mystical woo-woo, it is biological necessity. You cannot hear a whisper in a hurricane. The practice here is the cultivation of active silence. This is different from just relaxing. It is a state of high alertness combined with total stillness. The ancient method was often to focus on the space between breaths or the silence between thoughts. When you manage to widen that gap, when the static of your ego quiets down, the signal-to-noise ratio shifts. You are not leaving your body, you are becoming transparent to the field. Once you have established this silence, you encounter the second law, and this is where the genius of Carl Jung becomes our guide. This is the law of the symbolic interface. This is the part that confuses the rational mind. We expect the Akashic records to speak to us in English, in clear sentences, like a text message, but the field doesn't speak English. It speaks in the language of the anima mundi. It speaks in symbols, archetypes, and feelings. The raw data of the universe is too dense for your conscious mind to process directly. If you were to download the pure information of a past event or a cosmic truth, it would fry your neural circuits. So your psyche creates a user interface. It translates the raw energy of the Akasha into images that you can understand. This is why when people access the records, they often see a library, a cave, a temple, or a wise guardian. Are these places real? This is the wrong question. They are the desktop icons on the screen of your consciousness. When you click on the icon of a book in your visualization, your mind is executing a command to retrieve specific data from the field. Jung called this active imagination. It is not fantasy. Fantasy is when the ego invents stories to escape reality. Active imagination is when the conscious mind lowers its guard to let the unconscious and the field beyond it show it what is true. So, the practical application is this. You must construct a stable interface. You need to build your own reading room in your mind. It doesn't matter what it looks like, but it must be consistent. It could be the Library of Alexandria, a cabin in the woods, or a high-tech control room. This visualization acts as the bridge. By entering this imaginary space repeatedly, you are training your brain to switch frequencies. You are creating a ritual trigger. Over time, just the act of closing your eyes and visualizing the door to this room will instantly shift your brain physiology into the receptive theta state. Now, let's move to the third law, which is perhaps the most subtle, the law of the question. The Akashic field is a reactive database. It answers what is asked, but the quality of the answer depends entirely on the precision of the question. A vague question yields a vague feeling. A precise question yields a specific download. The mistake most people make is asking yes or no questions, or questions based on fear. Will I get rich? Does he love me? These questions are born from the ego's anxiety. The field tends to reflect that anxiety back to you as confusion. The scientia infusa that infused wisdom the mystics spoke of flows best through questions that seek meaning, not just prediction. Instead of asking what will happen, ask, what is the lesson pattern I am repeating? Or what is the origin of this specific fear I feel? When you ask a high-quality question in your reading room, do not expect a voice to boom from the heavens. Watch for the flash. This is the mechanism of the download. It often happens in a split second. It's a sudden image, a wave of emotion, or a knowing that arrives complete all at once. It feels like opening a zip file. The file arrives instantly, but it takes time to unzip it and read the contents. This leads us to the final and most difficult part of the manual, the protocol of discernment. How do you know? How do you know you aren't just making it all up? How do you distinguish between a genuine Akashic download and your own subconscious hopes and fears? This is the trap that catches even experienced seekers. There is a litmus test. a way to tell the difference. It comes down to the quality of the feeling. A fantasy constructed by your ego usually feels satisfying, self-congratulatory, or emotionally repetitive. It tells you what you want to hear. It feels like you. A genuine connection to the Akasha often feels surprising. It has a quality of otherness. The information might be something you hadn't considered, or a perspective that challenges your current beliefs. It often carries a specific sensation in the body, a somatic marker. For some, it's a chill down the spine, the truth bumps. For others, it's a sudden expansion in the chest, a feeling of resonance. The Scientia Infusa was described by the saints as having a taste of sweetness and clarity that the rational mind could not produce on its own. There is a texture to truth. It feels consistent, coherent, and often simple. Complicated, dramatic, winding narratives are usually the brain spinning its wheels. Deep truth is quiet. It lands with a thud, like a heavy stone dropping into a pond. To practice this, start small. Do not try to solve the mysteries of the universe on your first day. Go into your visualized reading room, stabilize your silence, and ask to see a record of a simple, verifiable event from your own childhood. Ask to see the house you lived in when you were 5. Don't try to remember it with your memory. Ask the field to show it to you. Notice the details that pop up, the color of the carpet, the smell of the kitchen, things you thought you had forgotten. When these details emerge spontaneously, without your effort, you are witnessing the mechanism in action. You are pulling a file from the holographic storage. You are flexing the muscle. Once you trust this process with the small things, the personal things, you can begin to expand the scope. You can begin to ask about the patterns of your life, the ancestral wounds carried in your DNA, and perhaps eventually the questions that have no personal owner, the questions about the nature of reality itself. This is the work. It is not magic. It is training. It is the reintegration of a sense we have allowed to atrophy. We have spent centuries building telescopes to see the edge of the universe, while the record of the entire cosmos has been sitting in the silent space between our thoughts, waiting for us to just listen. Now we arrive at the edge of the map. We have explored the history of the concept, from the Vedic seers to the quantum physicists. We have looked at the mechanics of how the brain might tune into this holographic frequency. But there is one final massive implication that we haven't touched yet. It is the implication that changes not just what we know, but how we live. If the Akashic field is real, if every thought, feeling, and action is permanently recorded in the bedrock of the universe, then we must confront a staggering truth. Nothing is ever lost. In our modern materialistic worldview, we are terrified of oblivion. We think that when we die, the hard drive is wiped. We think that our private moments, our secret acts of kindness, and our hidden shames simply evaporate into the void when no one is watching. But the theory of the Akasha suggests the exact opposite. It suggests that there are no secrets in the universe. It implies a terrifying and beautiful transparency. If the anima mundi, the soul of the world, remembers everything, then every single moment of your life is significant. It means that the thought you are holding right now is etched into the eternal structure of reality. You are not writing in sand, you are writing in diamond. This brings us to a profound paradox that mystics have wrestled with for millennia. If the record exists, is the future already written? Are we just actors reading a script that was finished before the Big Bang? It would be easy to think so, but the holographic nature of the field suggests something far more dynamic. Consider the observer effect in quantum physics. We know that the act of observing a particle changes its behavior. What if the same applies to the Akashic records? What if the act of accessing the past actually transforms it? Not that you change the facts of history. The battle happened, the heartbreak occurred, but you change the resonance of the event. When you revisit a traumatic memory through the Akashic interface, and you view it not with the fear of a child, but with the wisdom and compassion of your present self, you are re-encoding the signal. You are altering the emotional weight of the memory in the field. You are healing the timeline. This suggests that the Akasha is not a static museum of dead history. It is a living, breathing feedback loop. It is a dialogue between the you in the present and the you in eternity. And this leads to the ultimate realization about our identity. If your memories, your personality, and the essence of you are stored in a non-local field that exists outside of time and space, then what is the brain? The brain is just the receiver. And when the radio breaks, the broadcast doesn't stop. The signal continues. This is where the science of the Akashic field shakes hands with the oldest hope of religion, immortality. But not the cartoon version of immortality with clouds and harps. We are talking about the conservation of information. In physics, energy cannot be created or destroyed. Perhaps consciousness is the ultimate form of energy. The Akasha is the proof that the universe does not waste data. You are a unique, unrepeatable data stream in the cosmic mind, and once that stream is generated, it cannot be deleted. So, the mystery hunter is not just hunting for facts. We are hunting for our own permanence. We are looking for the part of us that was there before we were born and will be there after we die. Accessing the records is not just about curiosity, it is a rehearsal for death. It is the practice of shifting your identity from the temporary hardware of the body to the eternal software of the soul. As we stand here, at the intersection of ancient wisdom and future science, the picture becomes clear. The universe is not a collection of separate objects bumping into each other in the dark. It is a symphony of interconnection. It is a vast, intelligent, remembering ocean. And you are not just a drop in that ocean. As the poet Rumi said, you are the entire ocean in a drop. You have the library card. You have the password. It is written in your DNA, and it is whispering in the silence between your thoughts. The challenge is not whether the records exist. The challenge is whether you have the courage to sit in the silence long enough to hear what they are trying to tell you. Maybe the ultimate purpose of human life is to be the writers of this record, to contribute a verse of beauty, courage, or love to the great Akashic poem. If everything is remembered, then let's make sure we give the universe something worth remembering. And that's our hunt for now. A wild mix of documented history, quantum theory, and tantalizing what-ifs based on bibliographical sources. But the real hunt happens inside you. What do you think? Is memory a storage in the brain or a field in the cosmos? If you like this journey into the unknown, hit subscribe for more mysteries, and let me know in the comments what file you would pull from the Universal Library if you could. Until next time, keep listening to the silence.